I'm grateful to Chris for filling in this morning. Linda's gone jaunting around wherever for 3 weeks. So we're glad that she's having a good time, and Chris was willing to fill in today, so I'm thankful for that. I remember reading, and I don't know where I read it, but I read that Oscar Wilde once said that the worst advice anyone could give anyone else was to be yourself. Kind of makes me pause, because having been a part of raising 3 daughters and pastoring any number of people through the years, I can hear those words echoing from my mouth, be yourself, in lots of situations. Well, you know, if your peers don't like you as you are, just be yourself. When I know that when I was her age, whatever that was, usually in adolescence, I would think, what silly nonsense out of a parent's mouth. Be yourself. When people come to church, they're often expecting the pastor to say the opposite. And people who come to church are often expecting the pastor to say what they want the pastor to say, and that is, well, you know, you can do better. I remember early in my ministry, I would have people who would approach me in kind and gentle ways, and sometimes not so gentle ways, and saying to me, you know, you need to come down a little harder on sin. Usually when those people approach me, I was never quite sure whose sin they were focusing upon. Someone else's at whom they were feeling anger, or perhaps their own. But bottom line, all pastors know this, that there is a line that we find ourselves walking homiletically, whether we want to admit it or not. And that is that there are people who need to feel some sense of chastisement. And a part of that dynamic is that if they are chastised, if someone shakes a finger at them, then they feel worthy of forgiveness, because grace comes hard. On the other hand, if we get too uppity and press sin too hard, and we get into what people consider to be meddling, then there's some, feedback the other way on that as well. But it always saddens me, the fact that mostly people think coming to church means that they're going to get at least a little bit of judgment and condemnation of their sin, and, kind of a little paddling around on the backside emotionally. I posted on Facebook, but I know that most of you are not friends with me on Facebook, a story about last Sunday. Last Sunday morning I woke up and I wasn't feeling well. I don't know why, but my joints were really bothering me. And I got ready and I ate, and I kept feeling worse and worse. Didn't feel so great in Sunday school. Got through worship, and I thought by the time communion was over, I was going to be like a bow-legged cowboy going down the aisle. I was hobbling so badly. Just hurting, and it kept deteriorating. And so I went to the office after everybody quit eating, and I did what I do on Sunday. I worked on some liturgy for the next Sunday, and I have a list of things that I want to get done. And then I said, well, it's time to go to Melbourne, because I wanted to make a visit down that way. Got in the car. I have a watering hole that I've been into Melbourne so many times over these past 20 plus months. And so I crossed Bonita Causeway. I take south on 1, and just a little ways down there on 1, but sitting off back road to 7-Eleven. All right, so heavy shower. I pull into the parking lot. I want to get some caffeine. I'm still hurting. And so I'm looking, and there's not many people around. I walk in the store, and there's absolutely, except for the 2 employees at the front, nobody in the store. Which is strange because almost at most 7-Elevens, almost never anybody at the cash register. However, as I walk in, I'm kind of walking in, and I'm in discomfort. This guy looks at me. I still have my tie on, which is probably the giveaway. When I'm in Florida, it's Sunday, somebody has a tie on. So he looks to his coworker and says, "Looks like this man's been to church." And then he says, "And it looks like church was pretty hard on him." I got my caffeine, I got in the car, and I started rolling. I thought that was the funniest thing. It was good comic relief in my discomfort. And then as I got ready to drive on, it hit me a kind of a sadness about that people perceive that going to church can be a painful thing. That people perceive that going to church means that you're going to get a finger waved or a chastisement or here's what you got to do or God won't like you. It was pointed out to me, and I don't know who, because this goes back a while, this text in Ephesians, someone pointed out to me, and for all I know, it could have been Will Williman. I used to read a lot of his sermons. But it was pointed out to me that we come to this piece, this text of the day in Ephesians, and we get the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse, yes. That is, that we read this text as if the writer is saying, you need to do these things if you're going to be a Christian. Chris read it so well, but just as a reminder, it's a list. Isn't it a list? And in fact, in my Bible, it has this little thing over, the pericopes about what it's supposed to be about. And actually, in my Bible, it says rules for the new life. Well, isn't that interesting? So the writer is saying, we got to put away falsehood and speak the truth to our neighbors. And the one I preached on some time ago, be angry and sin not. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. Don't make room for the devil. You got to quit stealing. Or at least give it up and rather let them labor and work honestly with their hands. And here's what I find interesting. Let them labor and work hard. Why? Not to buy a new television set, but to work hard so as to have something to share with the needy. And let no evil talk. You get it. You heard it. You've got these words here. And along the way, we listen to this, and it sounds as if we're not careful, they're telling us what we've got to do in order to be Christian. And sometimes we need to stop and think, wait a minute. This is being written to the church in Ephesus. This is already written to folk who are followers on the way. This is already to people who are and understand themselves to be the people of God. And then there comes that challenge that, it's no problem. Therefore, be imitators of God. Well, that's an easy one to check off. Right? I bet you got up this morning and says, today I'm going to be an imitator of God. But there's a little connotation there. Be imitators of God as beloved children. As beloved children. And, oh, by the way, live in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. As beloved children. You see, this is not really about beating you over the head. Most of you already know in relationships what integrity means, how to treat each other, the respect that other people deserve. This is kind of common wisdom that the community would hold in common regardless of whether a preacher ever said anything or not. And why do we know that? Because we are the beloved children of God, made in God's image, and we know what it means to imitate God because in Christ, love was lived out. And we already know that as people of God, love just simply prevails in our heart even when we're at our worst. We know who we are, and we know whose we are. And so, with all due respect to Mr. Weil, I'm just a good number of decades too late. That's exactly what I'm going to say to you today, because this is an easy sermon to preach. I'm going to say to you, hey, be yourself. Simply you, for you are those children. And when you are those children, you act like those children, and the gifts of God are made manifest, and the world has incredible possibilities of being changed. Remember the old song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. We don't need another mountain. The world needs love because the world needs you. Imitators of God. Incarnated love, being yourselves as you were meant to be. If being you is enough, just enough, and by grace it is enough always, it could be that if we simply live our lives with that assumption and understanding, then whenever we walk into Cumberland Farms or 7-Eleven or, God help us all, McDonald's and Cocoa Beach. I'm not doing a commercial for my daughter. They have enough troubles. If you walk into some place, you will somehow be that presence of love so that the assumptions won't be made. Looks like you've been to church and the church has been hard on you. Yes, I don't need to wag my finger today because I just don't. I don't need to tell you how bad you've been. I don't need to say, like the old preachers in my day, you bunch of cocktail cigarette sucking sinners. No. You be you. By the grace of God with the gifts of God. And live with integrity. And the Spirit of God will take care of the rest.